Hey solos, so you're going to Walt Disney World all by yourself, and you're wondering, when you are going to Magic Kingdom, are there some places that are particularly good for solos? Well, solo spoiler, obviously you do you, bibbidi bobbidi boo. Anything you want to do is all right with me, but in this episode I'm going to talk about a couple cool places that you might want to check out and just relax and kind of take it all in that you might not have noticed if you've gone with your family. Hi everyone, it's Samantha. Olaf may not know who Samantha is, but now you do. And welcome to Disney Solo Magic, the #1 podcast for solo travel to Disney World, now in its second year. In this episode, we're going to take a walk around Magic Kingdom. I'm going to point out a couple different spots, not as many as I would like because we want to keep this podcast fairly reasonable in terms of length, but I'm going to point out a few things that you should take note of when you are there by yourself, and hopefully you'll find a new favorite place to relax and people watch and heal and enjoy and eat and all those things. So I can't wait. You can see my pictures of going to Magic Kingdom as well as all of the parks on my Instagram account. I am also on Facebook and Threads, and those are below. You can also listen to this on Apple, Spotify, and on YouTube. And make sure you rate, review, and subscribe on all 3 platforms because that's excellent. I actually really want to shout out YouTube, my few but mighty YouTube listeners, because I don't do much with YouTube. I just get the RSS feed to just go on YouTube. So I can imagine if you're looking for something to watch or something to listen to on YouTube, you're not picking something that doesn't have any visuals and hardly has any views or subscribers. So I just really want to shout out those of you who are listening on YouTube who found this and took a chance on listening to something that had pretty low numbers. I mean, not actually low numbers, not if you look at all the platforms. Anyway, whatever. And I hope you keep coming back and subscribing and enjoying and sharing. And that's the best way for people to know about the podcast. When you share and you like and all of that stuff, it really helps the algorithm. I mean, a good thumbnail also helps the algorithm, but gosh, I don't have time for that. There's also a Patreon. Oh gosh, people, I really, really would love the Patreon to become a really good, safe community for all of us solos, to be able to share other information, to be able to do more behind the scenes stuff, to do more private things that wouldn't be good on the public feed. So there are tiers available for you to support the podcast at $3 Canadian or $2 American. But if you want some behind the scenes stuff as well as some other information, you can join the Mickey Bar tier, which is $5 Canadian or $3 American. That's for a whole month, everyone. That's nothing. And if you want an extra episode every single month, as well as even more behind the scenes stuff and a birthday card, then you can become a Dole Whip member, and that is $10 Canadian or about $8 American. And I hope to have a little bit of a meet and greet later in May. So we'll see. And if people aren't available for a meet and greet in May, then I can answer questions and all of that stuff. Anyway, it's going to be as big and interactive as you all want it. So please come and join me there. I should say, too, that one of the reasons why I wanted to do a Patreon is because it would be really great to envision this podcast in 2 or 3 or even 5 years down the line, and to be able to go to resorts that I can't afford to go to on my own, to be able to try different restaurants or experiences that other solos might want, and to be able to review them for other solos. And so kind of broadening the community of conversation and things like that, and having it monetized takes the option of ads off this particular podcast and gets it within a community of again, hopefully kind of crowdsourcing maybe some cool experiences that my funds on my own can't do. So anyway, it's a dual thing. It'd be really cool. But also, one more thing before I move on is that the Mickey Bar and the Dole Whip tiers, you can get to watch the interviews of the solo stories, which I'm really, really excited about as a bonus material for the Patreon. And even though I had planned just to I don't really really edit the solo stories that much, so I just plan to put up the videos just as they were and put up the audio in the same way. I had the most amazing conversation with 2 solos last month, and those solo stories are going to go up this month, but one in particular is so long that I have to cut information. It was like an hour and 40 minutes, so I have to cut it for the audio feed, but I don't have to cut it for the video feed. So if you become a Mickey Bar or Dole Whip Patreon member, then you'll be able to watch the whole conversation, and I'll tell you, they're all so fantastic. They're all really amazing, and I'm really excited for you all to watch them. All right, Magic Kingdom, let's get into it. All right. So, full disclosure, I had a completely different plan for this episode. I had been planning it, and I was all ready. I have all these notes. I even recorded a version. I'll probably have to re-record it, but I even recorded a version. And then the other day I was going for a walk, and I just thought to myself, I just want to go to Magic Kingdom right now. I just want to go to Magic Kingdom. So I thought, well, let's virtually all go to Magic Kingdom together. Let's virtually all just take a walk around Magic Kingdom. Now, even when I'm not trying, I am full of fun facts, and it's I can't walk in a place that I have been to before without pointing out a piece of history or a piece of trivia or tell a story about a particular place. I am my mother's daughter. Anyway, that's a different story. I am my mother's daughter, and so I can't help but pointing out certain things. And so if we were all at Magic Kingdom together, which of course we won't be because we'd all be there solo, but if we were to be at Magic Kingdom together, these are some things that I would point out to you. I've tried to narrow it down to 3 to 5 points per land, just in order to keep this episode fairly short. But I will, again, talking about Patreon, I will talk about some other things and tell some longer, more obnoxious stories, and I'll put those on Patreon. All right, so let's start with Main Street USA. Main Street USA, it's its very own land, even though it really just seems like a street. But this is where you are entering the magic of Disney, and you go underneath the train. This isn't even the trivia yet. I'm just see, I cannot help myself. You go underneath the train, and you are kind of in the shade, and then you open up to this beautiful Main Street USA with the American flag. And if you are American and patriotic, I'm sure that's very, very exciting. And then you get to see our girl, Cinderella Castle, and she is always a beauty. And I should say, I actually really love the iridescent covering they did. I kind of love that she's no longer gray. I know that some of you agree, so I don't feel like that's too hot of a take, but it's just a wonderful way to enter in to what you know is going to be the best day ever, or even just the best hour ever. Main Street USA is a fictionalized, mythologized, turn-of-the-century American town. It is based off one of the places that Walt lived growing up, but even so, it is trumped up, it is built up, it is more mythical and beautiful and full than the town that Walt would have lived in. That's what myths, that's what set designing, that's what this world building is really all about. And one of the ways, too, that the Walt Disney World Corporation really pays homage to its own history is referencing the names of people and things that really shaped Walt Disney World on the different windows and storefronts all along Main Street. If you look closely, you can see the names of Walt and Roy Disney, obviously Walt Disney and his brother Roy, who really made sure that Walt Disney World became what it did after Walt's death. There are some windows as well that reference the different fake companies that bought up all the land around what is now Walt Disney World before people knew it was Walt Disney and that they could charge anything. So that history, as well as more of the names and more of that type of history, you can actually learn a lot about that on the Keys to the Kingdom tour. They go over that a lot. And I've done the Keys to the Kingdom tour twice. Plus, I already knew that some of the windows reference different entities or people in the Walt Disney World history canon. But both times I did the Keys to the Kingdom tour, I still learned stuff about those windows and found it really fascinating. So you should check that out. But when you're there solo and you're just like doing your own thing, feel free to like look up at some of these names and look up the names as well to be able to learn a little bit of the history while you're like literally standing on Main Street, which, I mean, being at Walt Disney World and learning history sounds amazing to me. The other thing that's really cool about Main Street, for solos in particular, is that when you walk into Magic Kingdom, you're on Main Street and you look to your right, you're going to see the Town Hall Theater. The Town Hall Theater has a little store where you can get embroidery on like your traditional Mickey ears and things like that. It also used to be a place that was real. I mean, there are still PhotoPass photographers who are there, but you can like deal with some of the like PhotoPass issues. But that is also where you can meet Mickey. Now, if you just like look in, you can really judge the length of the line from the amount of people that you can see. So when you're in the Town Square Theater and you look in and you can see a huge, huge line of people in the atrium, like where the lineup actually is, that is the line. There are lines that you can't see, but they're actually very, very short. And solo spoiler, this is an adult spoiler. By adult, by the way, I don't mean X-rated. I just mean like maybe kids don't want the magic, ruined. There are actually 2 different lines to meet Mickey Mouse. There might be 2 different Mickey Mouses who are meeting and greeting. So that's why when you look at the line, there is another line inside, but it splits. So it's not like it's double the amount of space inside, and that's why the line can go really quickly. Now, I have looked at the time outside that said, oh, meeting Mickey is 45 minutes, and then I'll just like look in the town square, and I'll see the Town Square Theater, and I'll see that there's only like, I don't know, maybe 4 families in line. That means because of the hidden line, there's only really like 6 to 7 families, and that's not a 45-minute line, and so I'll usually jump in. So just take a look. Don't necessarily trust the time. You can use your eyes to really determine how long that line is. Also, that is also the lobby for Tony's Town Square Italian restaurant, which I've never been to, by the way, and there is a bathroom there as well. Now, there is a bathroom on the other side of Main Street, like on the other side of the flagpole, but I actually prefer the Tony's Town Square bathroom. There's only a few stalls. It's actually not that great, but because it is so small, there usually is like no line and it's a very quick in and out, whereas the other one I feel like is quite chaotic with a lot of strollers and things like that. Also, the like maitre d' desk of Tony's Town Square restaurant is where you would meet for the Keys to the Kingdom tour if you were going to do that. So there you go. Now, again, on the other side of the flagpole, so if you are walking into Magic Kingdom, the Town Square Theater is on your right. If you go to your left, you'll see the Chamber of Commerce, and you'll also see the City Hall and the fire station. The City Hall is where customer service is, and that's where you can get like a birthday button and things like that. You can get birthday buttons in other places, but that is the main customer service hub for Magic Kingdom. But I'm going to tell you a secret, solos. Look, everyone is very, very nice there, but I have gotten more things I have asked for, not asking them. If that makes any sense. So, look, it is the main customer service hub for Magic Kingdom. That means they're getting requests all day, every day, and they have to kind of have like strict lines of yes and no's. They're always very nice with the no's, right? But they have to be strict lines with the yes or no's. However, I find if I ask similar questions, even to the customer service outside of the like gates of Magic Kingdom, like there's another set of bathrooms there. When I've asked there, I've actually gotten things that I've asked for, or at least they've tried harder to make that happen. One thing that I'm thinking of is I wanted to switch my Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party ticket from one night to another night. And I knew it was sold out, but if you're only one person, you can just ask, as one of the episodes said, and see what they can do. So I went inside where the City Hall is and I asked, and she said, no, it's sold out. And I was like, okay, thank you. And that was it. But then when I was leaving Magic Kingdom, I went to the customer service that is just outside the gates and I asked the same question. And she said, "Is it only you?" And I said, "Yeah, it's only me." And she's like, "All right, let's see what we can do." And I actually had already switched the date on the ticket. So the customer service rep said, "I would do this for you, but since you've already switched the date, I can't do that again." And I was like, "Okay, no problem. Thank you so much." So there you go. She was able to make it happen, but I had already kind of like triggered the like no switch rule, and that's totally, totally fine. But the other woman inside Magic Kingdom was just like a no. And I get that. People are asking them things all the time. But I did go into City Hall once and I like charged my phone, and they don't have like chargers that you can take with you or anything. But I like sat there for like 15 minutes with a charger that they lent me, and I just charged my phone enough to get back to the hotel. So you can use City Hall for sure, but don't think they are the end all be all for guest experiences and customer service, because again, they just are dealing with so many people. If you're into like fire service, firefighters, community firefighting service, things like that, that's your jam. You should check out the fire station as well. It has like medallions, has logos. Neither of those words are correct. Crests, maybe, from different local-ish fire brigades. I don't know. I should have looked up all this language ahead of time. Fire people across America, and if that is, you know, a community that you are like closely tied with, I'm sure it's a really, really cool experience. As someone that's into history, I wish there was more history about some of these different crests or medallions or logos that I'm looking at, to provide that context. But when I go in, I'm just like, I want to know more. But if you already know more because you kind of live in those communities, then I bet it'd be pretty cool. So you can go check that out too. That often also gets really, really overlooked. The other thing about the Town Square Theater is there is a secret meet and greet, character meet and greet. It is not always there. You can check the app, but you can also, again, check with your eyes. So it is the closest, it's kind of hard to explain it. It is the closest place to the entrance of Magic Kingdom in the Town Square Theater building. So if you walk right into Magic Kingdom and you look immediately to your right, you will see a ramp that goes up into the Town Square Theater, and there is a place there where you can do meet and greet characters. Snow White is often there. I met Mulan there. It was really, really cool. The reason why I said it's kind of a tricky place is because most people just walk right into Magic Kingdom and they head to those stairs to go inside the Town Square Theater. So this is the ramp that is, again, just like much closer to the entrance. And usually people don't look that way because you're looking towards the flagpole. You're looking towards the castle, like you're looking forward. So when you come in, just quickly look to your right and see if there's a character there. You can, again, always check the app to see if they are listing the meet and greet times as well. Oh my gosh, we haven't even like walked down Main Street. I've already hit like 5 fun facts about this area and we have to move on. Okay, so I'm going to leave these other fun facts for another time, but I will just say there is one store that I always really like to go into. Now, of course, the stores on either side of Main Street is one continuous store. Actually, another fun fact, the like big main store, Disney Clothiers, that is on the left side. If you're facing the castle, it'd be on your left hand side, and it's kind of like a main store right in the middle. It often has very seasonal merchandise. Like it's everything. All the other stores in that area usually have like common Disney merchandise, but this has very seasonal merchandise. That actually is a store that they built later on, like they built later in the Disney World history, Magic Kingdom history, because they were finding that there was a lot of issue with like crowd control. Originally that was a street that went right through, and so the stores like had stopped. So by building that as a store, you can now walk through that whole Main Street USA through the store. So There you go. That's pretty cool. On the other side of the street, though, like directly there's on the other side, you will see there is a street. And so that was like the continuation of that street. That is where the Crystal Arts is, which is a cool like crystal and glass store. But that little street there has some seating that you can sit in. It's often really quiet. And I don't really love sitting there because usually by that time, like by the time I'm in that like spot, I want to get into Magic Kingdom or I want to get out of Magic Kingdom. But it is a really beautiful place to stop. And if you sit kind of at the back and it's quiet, you'll be able to hear some singing coming from one of the upstairs like stores. And that's because, again, the etching on the glass will say it's a music store, a music school. And so they're practicing their singing in the music school. So again, when you're going solo, you can just like take some time to like notice all those details. But right outside of that, one side of that street is Crystal Arts and the other side is Uptown Jewelers. I don't even remember the names of the stores. I just know that is where Pandora is. That's also where you can get some Dooney and Burke purses. And oftentimes they'll have some dresses as well. When Disney had the dress store line of dresses, that's where you could get those dresses at that store. And so I always go in to look if there's any new dresses because I like to get a good Disney dress. So there you go. Let's move on to Adventureland, even though I have more to say about Main Street USA, but let's move over to Adventureland. Actually, before we get to Adventureland, let's just go to the hub. So that like hub area, we're not going to talk about the castle yet. That hub area where you can go left to Adventureland or you can go right to Tomorrowland. If you look towards Adventureland, you'll see that there is a lot of foliage. There's a lot of trees. On the other hand, Tomorrowland is very open and it is very sparse. That's not really quite the right word. It is sparse in that there isn't a lot of foliage. And actually, Walt was expecting people to go right rather than left. And so the design of Tomorrowland was such that it was meant to be more open and inviting because the idea was that people were naturally going to turn right. They were naturally going to turn towards the area that was more open. And Adventureland was going left. It was more like shaded. It had a lot more trees. Not that it wasn't more welcoming, but that the idea was that people would be coming out to that side. So that's really interesting because if I'm going to spend time at Magic Kingdom, I will never turn right there. I'll never turn right at Tomorrowland. I'll always go towards Adventureland. And I think a lot of people are the same. Please let me know. Do you start at Adventureland or do you start at Tomorrowland? I will only go to Tomorrowland if I am cutting through to go to like be our guest or to get a drink at the Cheshire Cat Cafe or something like that. But by and large, I actually avoid Tomorrowland, but by and large, I will always start with Adventureland. So let me know, solos. Do you start at Adventureland or do you start at Tomorrowland? But we're going to start at Adventureland for this little walkthrough. So Adventureland is our land of exploration and jungles and exotic locations. That's where you can find the Tiki Room and Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse and Pirates of the Caribbean and Magic Carpets of Aladdin, which is actually quite fun, especially during the fireworks. You can find the Jungle Cruise. Like, I feel like everyone's favorites can be found at some place in Adventureland, which is pretty cool. There are so many things I want to say about Adventureland because I love it so much, but this isn't going to be a history. I'm telling myself this isn't going to be a history. These are a few things that you should look at or do or take notice of when you are going solo. So I'm going to try to keep as focused as possible. So the first one is the Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse. I talked about this with Tina, The Travel Life of T. We did a solo story a couple months ago. And the Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse is based on the 1967 Disney movie, The Swiss Family Robinson. And it's just so classic. It's so great. There is a lot of walking and it is quite narrow. It's not really designed for like accessibility. things like that. But if you are able to walk up the stairs and explore, there's just so many cool elements of the set. If you wanted to watch the movie ahead of time, you'll appreciate the treehouse even more. When you get to the top, though, there are some beautiful vantage points of all of Magic Kingdom. You can see the castle, you can see the different lands. It's really beautiful and very serene. And most people just walk through it pretty quickly. So it's a really good spot to just kind of like stand there on your own and like take it all in, because people are doing their own thing. You can kind of do your own thing as well. And if that is just like a quiet contemplative moment, it's a beautiful place for that to happen. Now, Adventureland is also known as the home of the Dole Whip in Magic Kingdom, and usually the Sunshine Tree Terrace, which you see immediately when you come into Adventureland, if you're coming from the castle, it has a huge lineup. But just a reminder that the Sunshine Tree Terrace also has mobile order, which is a great way to grab and go your Dole Whip. And if you go to Aloha Isle, which is right on the outside of the tiki room, like the outside where the exit is, that often will have a very similar menu, but there is much shorter lines. There's also more cashiers, and that's why the line goes a lot faster. So if you are solo and you want to like navigate your Dole Whip journey a little faster, look at mobile ordering or using the Aloha Isle, which I find, again, you can do much quicker. I actually really love the Aloha Isle area more than the Sunshine Tree Terrace area because it is less congested. There's also a really nice seating area that is around that Aladdin type like bazaar area. And for someone that grew up with Aladdin, there's a couple Easter eggs in there. You can look for the Aladdin's lamp and things like that. So if you want to eat a Dole Whip quietly, go over to Aloha Isle and take a look at the seating there rather than the Sunshine Tree Terrace. And this is only like a 2-minute walk apart. Like these aren't very far, but again, the Sunshine Tree Terrace area gets so busy that people like, I guess, think it's a one and done, that they're not going to get Dole Whip anywhere else. But you can, people, you can. Before we walk over to Pirates of the Caribbean, I just want to point out this little cool tidbit. So I'm assuming that all of you know what the utilidors are. I'm hoping. So Disney World, Magic Kingdom is actually built on the second level. So because the Walt Disney World Corporation was building Magic Kingdom and the Walt Disney World Resort in Swampland, they knew they really needed to fortify a really good first level, not a basement, but a first level in order to prevent flooding. So a year before they actually started construction on Magic Kingdom that you see, they actually built a whole first floor that's all concrete that Magic Kingdom sits on. That first floor is below the ground where we all walk on Magic Kingdom, and it's called the Utilidors because it is a series of tunnels and offices and workspace and workshops and cafeterias, and there's a whole like bus bay down there, like a bus, like a city bus, although it's not a city bus, it's the Walt Disney World bus, will bring cast members from the parking lot right into the Utilidors. You can see all that on the Keys to the Kingdom as well. Actually, you can go down into the Utilidors. It's very cool. And so most of Magic Kingdom is sitting on that second floor. It is sitting on this whole concrete utilidor area. It is very cool, and that is why Magic Kingdom can kind of survive all of that, like all of the flooding that would happen because you're in Swampland. So I can talk about that another time if one wants, but if you're going to the Jungle Cruise, you might notice that you have to go like down a little bit in order to get to the line. And the reason why you're going down a little bit is because that's where the Utilidor stops in that area. So when you are going down to the line, you have actually gone back to the first floor. So like if you're walking where the magic carpets of Aladdin are, and then you walk down to the Jungle Cruise, you're actually going to the first floor, whereas the Magic Carpets of Aladdin were on the second floor. I don't know if that makes sense. But if we were there together, I would say that to you every single time we did it. Every single time we did that walk, I would say that to you. Because I think that is one of the coolest fun facts about that area. Actually, there's a couple other ones, but I'm not going to tell those to you in this episode. All right, now we've moved closer to the Pirates of the Caribbean, and this area is going to change a little bit because they're opening up a new, pirates themed beverage lounge, like food and beverage lounge. So this area will change. It's already changed. They've moved the gift shop over and they've closed one of the quick service restaurants in order to make room for all the renovations happening. It's not going to change. It's going to change for the better, I think, for solos because you'll get this new lounge area. But right now it's hard to identify particular areas because the names are changing or there are no names on them. But what was Tortuga's Tavern, which is across from Pirates of the Caribbean, and Pecos Bill Cafe, which is kind of around the corner, that was all kind of a very similar restaurant, very similar menu. I wouldn't be surprised if they actually shared a kitchen. And so all of that area has seating for eating, for resting, for drinking, all of that stuff. And so I'm pointing this out to you solos because if you are looking to get something to eat, sure, but if you're looking just to sit in the shade, this area, not only the Tortuga Tavern area, but also all the way around to Pecos Bill has some interesting seating area. Not only in that building, in that particular Tortuga's Tavern and Pecos Bill building, but across on the left-hand side. If you look on the other side, there's this little kind of out-of-the-way eating area that I like to eat at quite a bit. Plus, if you are, again, walking towards Pecos Bill from Tortuga Tavern, gosh, I can't say that very well, you'll also see there's kind of some outdoor seating on what would be the patio, I guess, what would be the porch. I don't mean the Pecos Bill porch, that is also seating, obviously, but it is that walkway in between those two restaurants, even though they're essentially the same restaurant. And the reason why I'm saying it's essentially the same restaurant is to flag that if you have gotten food at Pecos Bill, don't feel first, if you get food at Columbia Harbor House, don't feel weird about eating it at Pecos Bill. Nobody cares. It's all the same restaurant. But in particular, if you get food at Pecos Bill and you are walking towards Tortuga Tavern, know that seating is actually there for the Pecos Bill people there anyway. So go check out all that kind of hidden out of the way seating. I find as a solo, sometimes it's nice just to get out of the fray of things. And I did an episode, I think in December, about, it's called A Little Story of Anxiety, where I just said that I was in Magic Kingdom and I just got overwhelmed by anxiety. And that area was where I was sitting when I just recentered myself. It was these out of the way seats for these same restaurants, but that you might not notice right away. And if you're wrangling a big family or you're there with a partner who's grumpy, you might not want to walk too far to find a place to eat. But when you're there by yourself, notice that there is that extra seating there that can be a lot more calming and relaxing and, again, out of the way. There's also a little place to get food called the Golden Oak Outpost. You can get the beignets, the Tiana beignets there. They're not the same beignets that you can get at Port Orleans French Quarter, but they're, fried dough and sugar, so they're still good. Okay, let's talk about Frontierland. Frontierland is actually the only area at Magic Kingdom that you can't directly get to from the hub by the castle. You have to go through a different area, which is kind of cool as a little fun fact, I guess. This area is going to change a lot over the next 5 to 10 years. This area includes Tom Sawyer's Island, and it includes Big Thunder Railway, and that is closed right now. It's going to be closed for a whole year because they're fixing the track. They're making it more sturdy because the Villains Land is going to be on the other side of the Big Thunder Mountain. But also Tom Sawyer's Island is going to be filled in, and that's going to become Cars Land. I am unhappy with that. I don't think that the waterway should be filled in, and I am not excited for Cars Land. I am very excited for Villains Land, but I'm not excited for any of the car stuff because I just have no connection or interest in that story at all. I don't think that they should fill in the water. I think the water is a really nice touch and is probably actually an important area for like water and swamp control. However, I don't have any qualms about them redoing Tom Sawyer's Island. I know that it isn't used as much as it probably should be, and it is a very, very valuable piece of real estate. You can get to it through a raft that is close to Tiana's Bayou Adventure. There is also the Liberty Bell, which is a big like steamboat. I was going to say steamship, but I think it's just a steamboat that goes around that area, but that doesn't stop at Tom Sawyer's Island. That's a separate attraction. The boat itself does a narration, and it will show you different things on its way, the rivers of America of different Indigenous people. It is a little problematic if one is interested in history, especially history that provides greater justice for Indigenous people. So I don't hate that narration is going away, but I think they can actually do a lot of more interesting things with Tom Sawyer's Island and the Liberty Bell and the different dioramas they have of Indigenous people in that area than just, closing it up and making it Cars Land. But, I'm open-minded, I guess. One thing that's really cool about Frontierland I walk through Frontierland. I'm a big walking through that area type of person. I don't really stop and look around. It's not really my aesthetic. In fact, sometimes I feel like I'm on like hot coals just being in that area. Like, I don't like this aesthetic. I want to keep walking. But what is cool about the Frontierland is that not only is there that main area that you can walk on, but there is a separate parallel path that is a lot more rustic, that's more right on the water. And when there is a parade, you are moved there if you need to walk through, but it's actually a really, really beautiful walk just on its own. Again, you can walk around the water. You might be able to see some fish or ducks. I saw some beautiful flowers there the other day. I've also talked, or the last trip, I also talked with some cast members in that area, and I've learned different things about the different animals and stuff that live in that area. So if you were there solo, definitely check out that as a walkway. It's really quite beautiful. You can also eat at the Diamond Horseshoe. It is connected to Liberty Tree Tavern, and Liberty Tree Tavern is actually in Liberty Square, which is technically a different land. But the Diamond Horseshoe and the Liberty Tree Tavern is essentially the same restaurant, just in two different versions. And they serve family style, but like Matt Richardson told me, and I got to experience myself, they will serve it to you as one plate there, and it actually makes the notion of family style much, much easier than any other restaurant that does family style at Disney World. It is traditional Thanksgiving or Christmas type food, stuffing, green beans, turkey, all of that stuff. I went to the Diamond Horseshoe in October for the first time and was very, very pleasantly surprised. It's also the theater that used to host the Hoop-Dee-Doo musical review until it got so big they moved it to Fort Wilderness and its very own theater, which is cool. I've also done a solo story that is going to come out late May, early June with Heather, who is in California, and she talked about the Diamond Horseshoe at Disneyland so much. So if you're interested in the Diamond Horseshoe and some of the history and stuff like that, make sure you listen to that interview as well, because that was really cool to hear some extra trivia and stuff about that space. Okay, let's move over to Liberty Square. Now, this is also not a space I spend a lot of time in. I always think it's because I'm not American, so I'm not as connected to the stories of the 13 colonies, etc. But it's actually such an interesting land, although it's very small, because of the history that it comes from, but also the Walt Disney World history of it as well. In particular, there is that big tree, the Liberty tree, right in the middle of the square. And that tree has so much interesting history of how they brought it to Magic Kingdom, how it's like cracked open. Well, some people might think there's like the ghosts of Walt Disney that helped put it together. And then there's like the actual historical things, like the 13 different lanterns hanging from the boughs. Like there's so many interesting things about that tree. So when you are there and you're there solo, definitely go and take a look at it and really like ask some cast members about it. Really just like appreciate what it is there that's just kind of more historical than you would think. Right beside the tree is a Ye Olde Christmas Shoppy, the Ye Olde Christmas store, and that is a Christmas store just like the one at Disney Springs. You can get Christmas ornaments, all that stuff. You can also get them personalized, but this is also a place that you can get your birthday button, celebration button, things like that personalized with like fancy writing for a cost, of course, but it's, if you were just getting your name on it, it's an additional $5, which isn't, totally crazy, and it really will give you a nice souvenir. However, because someone is doing it by hand, it will take some time to do. So if you are interested in getting that done, make sure you drop it off as soon as you get there so that you can like pick it up a couple hours later and then start taking pictures of it. But if you wait until you get there, you might run out of time. So definitely check that out. Behind Ye Olde Shoppy, Ye Olde Christmas Shoppy, there is also some seating area that is also where they do meet and greets for like the Easter Bunny and stuff. So it's not a very populated area most of the time, but there's so many trees there. It is so cool and serene and just a great place to kind of sit and relax. So definitely check that out as well. Now, what's interesting about Liberty Square, that area, is that there are no bathrooms in Liberty Square because there wouldn't have been any indoor bathrooms during the time of the 13 colonies either. So you can't find a bathroom in this area. Columbia Harbor House, which is a quick service restaurant, does have a bathroom, but there's two bathrooms actually. I use both of them. I kind of sneak in and I'll just go to the bathroom and then I'll leave. But both of those bathrooms are close to Fantasyland. In fact, if they were drawing lines of where Fantasyland started and where Liberty Square ended, the bathrooms would be on the other side of Liberty Square. So even though you think you're using indoor bathrooms in Liberty Square, you're actually in Fantasyland when you are using the bathroom at Columbia Harbor House. So there you go. The more you know. All right, let's move over to Fantasyland, not just in the bathrooms. But speaking of bathrooms, this is where the Rapunzel bathrooms are, which is a really beautiful area. And actually, the walk from Columbia Harbor House, Liberty Square to those Rapunzel bathrooms is the most narrow place, the most narrow walkway in all of Magic Kingdom. Now, that seems like a completely random fact nobody will care about, but I learned that on my first Keys to the Kingdom tour, and for some reason, I have loved that piece of trivia, so I share it as much as I can. The Rapunzel bathrooms were built in the area where they used to have the like landing area for these giant like Skyliner like gondolas that would go over Fantasyland. It seems like a huge liability risk. So now it's the Rapunzel bathrooms, which are really beautiful. Fantasyland is just so beautiful and so wonderful, and I really do feel like it's a different experience whether you are entering it by walking through the castle or you enter it through like by passing Haunted Mansion. Like it really tells two different stories, and the story of Fantasyland generally is that Cinderella and the royal court are having a fair, and so all of the different vendors and noble people and all of that stuff, they all come to this area and they set up like pavilions and stalls and all of these different things for a wonderful fair to all come together. That's why you'll see the banners. That's why you'll see this like fanfare, because it's meant to be like a fair. Fantasyland is also where you're going to find a ride, an attraction that predates Walt Disney World and Disneyland itself, and that is Prince Charming's Regal Carousel. That carousel actually was built in 1917, and it was refinished and revived and all of that stuff and brought to Walt Disney World. And so that exists longer than all of Walt Disney's stuff all combined. And there is a horse there that they have dedicated to Cinderella, and you can find her by seeing the golden ribbon around her tail. Now, this is, I don't know if this is like a go-to ride for a lot of solos. There's definitely a very much feel of like romance and also like family of doing it with other people. But if you're interested in the history of attractions, Walt Disney World, Cinderella, then going on the carousel and looking for the tie, I think is just such a fun thing to do. There's also a nod to Cinderella down at the back of the castle. You'll see the Cinderella statue, the Cinderella fountain, I mean. And if you are a child's height, so if you bend down, you will see that the crown that is in the mosaic behind Cinderella's, like the figure of Cinderella, actually will turn into a crown on her head. And that was designed purposely for children to be able to see a royal view of Cinderella, even though you can't see it right away. And so even if you're solo and you're there by yourself and you're an adult and you have to crouch down, it is well worth it. Behind that area as well, there's just kind of like, it's just like a shaded area that's part of the castle, and that's also where Anastasia and Drizella meet, which is pretty cool. And if you look directly to the castle from that meet and greet spot of Anastasia and Drizella, you're actually looking at the area where they will have the Cinderella suite inside Cinderella's royal castle. That is the area where they have that special hotel room that we all want to go to. Now, one of my favorite places at Fantasyland for a solo is the Pinocchio Village House. When you go to the Pinocchio restaurant, the quick service restaurant, you'll see all of this patio seating that you pass through in order to get to the restaurant. But if you look up, you'll see that there is actually some balcony seating, outdoor balcony seating, that is actually quite narrow, but still not too bad. But that's completely public, and you can get to it inside and you can get to it from the outside. And I always love to go and sit up there and people watch and cool off and drink some water and look at my photos and like get a snack and just kind of relax there for 15, 20, 30 minutes. And I find that whenever I've done it with other people, it's never quite as relaxing. But whenever I've done it by myself, it's always just like me up there, like surveying the land, looking at the castle. It's just so beautiful. So definitely go check it out. In 2012, Fantasyland more than doubled by the extension of the Beauty and the Beast area, the Little Mermaid area, Snow White's Mine Train, like all of that area expanded Magic Kingdom in 2012. And it's really cool, especially for all of us millennials who grew up with Beauty and the Beast and Little Mermaid and Aladdin that all came out in that same time. And it's just so cool to see the forced perspective of Beast Castle, to be able to see all of the details of the Little Mermaid ride. It's just so beautiful. Now, one of the things that you might be a little shy to do if you're there solo is the Enchanted Tales with Belle. And I can completely understand why someone might not want to do that solo. But if you're a Beauty and the Beast fan, it is definitely worth going to check out. And one of the reasons why is because of the queue. So the queue is through Maurice and Belle's cottage, and the details in there, again, are really beautiful. Then you go to the pre-show area, and they have some really cool effects that I will let you see on your own. And then you open up to a set, which is the library, and then they bring some kids from the audience, a few adults as well, and they act out the story of Beauty and the Beast. And so you might think it's kind of a weird thing to do solo because it is like it's like a story time with Beauty and the Beast and all the different characters. But whenever I did it, it's not so intimate that you feel out of place. It is quite funny. You don't have to participate if you don't want to. If you and the props and set pieces and all of that stuff are just really, really cool. So if you're a Beauty and the Beast fan, definitely go and check that out. If you're a Little Mermaid fan, then definitely go check out the queue as well. That has so many interesting details. It's just so beautiful, the Little Mermaid area, like the outside line area. And usually there isn't much of a line. So if you're there solo, you could just kind of browse yourself, tell people to go around you, take a look at all the different pieces and storytelling that they have done in the line. I just think it's really, really impressive, and it doesn't get the due it deserves. Okay, let's move over to Storybook Circus. I don't spend a lot of time here. I do really think of it as an area that is a little bit more for kids, I guess, but there's a few good things that you should know about if you are going solo, especially, although I feel like this episode is really like where to take breaks. But anyway, I'm going to tell you a couple places that you can take breaks in Storybook Circus as well. So, well, first, unrelated to breaks, there is a Big Top Souvenirs store and confectionery. So if you want to get like a, caramel apple or a cookie or all of that stuff, you can do the Main Street Confectionery, which is often quite busy, although you can mobile order. So just so you know, but you can also pick it up at Big Top Souvenirs, and it's far less busy, and it's very big and very cool, like air-conditioned cool inside, that it's definitely worth checking out if you want to get a sweet treat and just relax and cool off. Every time I've been there, I've also seen people like find an outlet and plug in their phone, although I'm sure they've covered them up by now, but there's just so many people sitting along the wall, just kind of relaxing in the cool. So if you are a floor sitter, I am not, because I am in my early 40s, then you can also relax there. But another place to relax is outside, which I know seems counterintuitive, but stay with me. If you leave Big Top Souvenirs and go to your left, you will find a meet and greet for Minnie Mouse, Donald, and Daisy. And they are dressed up in like circus attire, very cool. You can go and meet them there because they're at the back of the park. The lines usually aren't too long, but you can actually see the whole line when you come in. And that, like, a lot of the Disney lines are hidden, and that is totally on purpose. So you are tricking your brain into thinking the line isn't that long. So in the meet and greet there, where you can again see Minnie and Daisy and Donald, because you can see the line, I'm always like, nope, too long. So I've never stayed there, but that is where you can meet those characters. But right beside that, there is another tent, and that tent area is a place that you can also just go and sit and relax. I don't know what it was designed for. It might actually be designed as a space to relax, but there's seats there. There's a couple different like small games. It's in the shade because you are covered. It's actually just a really cool chill spot. So if you need some space, that's a space to go. Also, right behind that area is a place if you have a service dog where you can relieve your service dog. So there you go. Bet you didn't expect that piece of knowledge when you were listening to this podcast. Outside of this area is where you can meet Chip and Dale as well. And sometimes they're just kind of hanging out. Nobody has found them yet. So I don't know. It's kind of a fun little spot. You can also catch the train there. That's where you can get the Walt Disney World Railway. And the Walt Disney World Railway stops at 4 different stops. They stop at Storybook Circus. They stop at Main Street USA. They stop where Tiana and Big Thunder Mountain is. And that's it. Did I say 4? Is that 4? No, that's 3. The railway stops at 3 stops. Main Street USA, Frontierland, and then they'll say Fantasyland, but it's actually Storybook Circus. Storybook Circus is actually an area of Fantasyland, even though it is usually considered its own separate land. But they'll say Fantasyland, but it's Storybook Circus. I I really love the railway. It's become one of my favorite things to do there solo. It's relaxing, it's calming. I actually kind of love the narration and the drawl and the like connections to the different stories. Going from Main Street USA to Frontierland is always very, very charming. Going from Frontierland to Storybook Circus, again, they have some like different things, different like Peter Pan they reference. It's really, really charming. So if you are in Storybook Circus and you're ready for just kind of sitting but also some narration, you can check out the railway. You can catch the railway there. All right, let's talk about Tomorrowland. I don't spend a lot of time in Tomorrowland. Now, I know a lot of people really, really love the People Mover and the Carousel of Progress, and they will say that they will do those things every single time, and they're good because they enjoy them, but also because they can relax and all of that stuff, and that is wonderful. You do you, bibbity bobbity boo. The People Mover, I've only done once, and I think I would enjoy it a lot more if it didn't have narration. Again, the narration, I don't know. The narration is fine, but it's a Tomorrowland narration, and I don't know Monsters, Inc., and I don't know, I just don't feel any connection. I did it, though, also on a very cold day, thinking it was something to do to warm you up, and it is not. So if it is cold, don't use the People Mover. The Carousel of Progress, on the other hand, I'm not going to say a lot about that at all because I know people love it. But I will say this. If you would like to hear a little bit more about my problems with Carousel of Progress, then you should definitely watch the conversation that I had with Magically Adulting Stranger that's going to come out next week. So she and I talked for an hour and 45 minutes, and that just seems way, way too long. So I have edited it down and I've cut out a lot of me talking, but I didn't do that for the video, and that you can see on Patreon. So I do talk about it a little bit there if you wanted to watch that. So anyway, people like Carousel of Progress to sit and relax, so you can do that if you want. The thing, though, that I do want to point out in Tomorrowland is that it is one of two places that you can get an espresso. Which is something that a cast member told me when I was there with my mother, and my mother is addicted to espresso. So there is a Joffrey's in Tomorrowland. It is the only Joffrey's at Magic Kingdom, and that is where you can get espresso-based drinks. You can also get them at Starbucks, which is at Main Street USA, but those are the only two places that you can get espresso-based drinks. Tomorrowland, Joffrey's. And now we have come out back to the hub. We're in front of the castle, and we are just enjoying our girls so much. So when you are in the hub, of course you're in the hub, there's tons of people, there's PhotoPass photographers, blah, 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 blah. Go and get pictures with every single PhotoPass photographer, even if it is just like 6 feet away from where you took a photo before. Go for it. It's totally worth it. They're not, because people are taking photos and they're moving and all this stuff, there's not a lot of places to actually sit in the hub. But if you go and check out the areas that are just outside the hubs on the way to the different lands, especially Adventureland and Liberty Square and all that stuff, you will find places to sit and relax. And I don't know, finding a place in the sun, even just to lean and listen to the music from the different shows or seeing the parades go by, is just so awesome, and it is so much cooler to do it solo, at least in comparison with the people that I go with, because nobody's rushing you. You don't have to keep an eye out for characters that other people like. You can just be there with yourself and really, really enjoy the parade or the show, and it's been one of my favorite things to do solo, 100%. When there isn't a show going on, you can walk through Cinderella's castle, and I really encourage you to if you haven't done it. There is a series of mosaics that have been there since the castle opened that are just so beautiful, and they take a different approach to Cinderella Castle, they take a different approach to the Cinderella story than the actual movie, but it's just so enchanting. I don't know, there's just something about it that just makes me fall in love with it every single time. Most of it is cut off, though, if there's a show going on, because that's where the performers are. But keep an eye out, because it's not always closed, and it is definitely, definitely worth it. All right, we've reached the end. Let's all look back at the castle with one last forlorn goodbye. I know that's like, sometimes I can't even turn around and look back as I'm leaving, because it will just make me too emotional. It's just so interesting just how beautiful and majestic the castle is, and just how central it is in so many solos trips. And so I'm really interested in your own kind of experiences with the castle as well. Like, do you look back and cry? Like I do, like so many people do. I'm kind of interested in that. But that's my little brief history walkthrough of Magic Kingdom, pointing out some places that you can sit and relax and eat and all of that stuff that is kind of out of the fray that's really good for solos. I've also pointed out some like history and fun fact things for you to look up and learn more about, or even just to take notice of mentally when you're there yourself. But yeah, Magic Kingdom is just so, so special. And I know solos, that it can be so overwhelming if you've never been there before, or you've been there with other people, and you're like, oh, the lightning lanes and the lines and the cheeseburger carts and then the popcorn, and then all, like, I just know that there's it can be just so overwhelming. But here's the thing, it doesn't need to be. It can just be a place that you go, you get your picture in front of the castle, you kind of walk around and look what's there. Don't put pressure on yourself to ride every ride, to do all the things, to eat all the things. That's not why you're there solo necessarily. So like, identify for you. I did an episode, probably like exactly 1 year ago this month. I should check out what that timing is about like things that you should do at Magic Kingdom if you're solo. Definitely go check that out. I stand by all that advice, although I'm sure I sound a little bit different. And just enjoy it. Like, I ask people what their favorite park is during the solo stories, and look, Magic Kingdom is the OG. It's always Magic Kingdom number one. But then of course you have like a real favorite. But everyone's Magic Kingdom, everyone has special feels towards Magic Kingdom. Otherwise, you wouldn't be going to Walt Disney World solo. So I hope this enhances your solo trip to Magic Kingdom, and I can't wait to hear more about it on Patreon, on the different social media platforms, etc. Bye! Hey Solos, it's Samantha. I hope you like this episode as well as all the episodes of Disney Solo Magic, the #1 podcast for solo travel to Disney World. You can support this podcast by rating, reviewing, subscribing, and sharing this podcast on Apple, Spotify, and on the YouTube platforms. However, you can also support this podcast and build the Disney Solo Magic community by joining us on Patreon. We have 3 different tiers at different price points, starting at $2 American, and I'm hoping that it will be a really great place that you can meet other people, both get and share tips and tricks for solo travel to Disney World, and to create larger conversations about how to bring Disney Solo Magic into your everyday life. So please join us. The link to the Patreon is below.